Hi guys, this is Elise and I'm going to attempt a little tutorial. Okay, so I was in Hobby Lobby and I bought some of this Chenille-It, and I saw this for the first time at a quilting expo about maybe I think it was 2019. I went to a quilting expo with Rhonda Coleman, and there was a lady there, and she was just demonstrating this Chenille-It. I think maybe they called it something else, but it's the same thing. And I have been seeing people purchase this from Hobby Lobby. Now, I went in my Hobby Lobby, and they had lots of different colors, but I only bought the green, the pink, and the white, because I figured those would be the ones that I would probably use the most. And even though they were marked down from $8.99 to $2.24, I didn't want to spend $14-15 on some trim that I would probably never use. And there's a lot on these rows. So you get approximately 20 yards on each one. That's a lot. That's a lot. So, but the purpose of it is to create a chenille look on your fabric. It's really for fabric. So let me show you what I saw at the expo, and hopefully this will work. So what I did, well, you can see I'm in front of my sewing machine, and I just took a piece of scrap fabric and I sewed on 3 strips of the Chenille-It. And what you do is you sew right down the middle. Now this first strip, I didn't quite get down the middle, but hopefully it'll work. But these other 2, I pretty much got straight down the middle. So I'm going to show you how it works on the fabric, but I'm going to show you how you can use this on your cards. So what I did was I sewed 3 strips as well on this piece of craft cardstock, and I'm going to make this into a little card, but we're going to see if it works first. So what I'm going to do, what you need to do, you need to have, first of all, if you're using it on fabric, what you do, you sew it and then you wash your fabric. Well, I'm not going to wash it, so I'm just going to use this, my little, what is this thing called? My little Spellbinders tool, it's called a tool-in-one. And I'm going to use this bristle end right here, and hopefully that will do the trick. And I'm also going to use a little bit of water that I have in this bowl. And I have a paper towel here so that I can dry it because I don't want it to get too wet. So I'm just going to put my roller in the water and get it wet. And just kind of knock off the excess because I don't want it to get really, too wet. And then, let's see if you guys can see this if I do this right here in front of my... Then I'm going to roll over it and just kind of brush over it with the roller. And I got to see if I got it. I might have to get it a little more wet. And I'm going to just brush over it and see if I can get the effect that I'm looking for. Now this first roll, this first strip, like I said, I didn't sew this one right down the middle. I have to wet it a little bit more. And you just rough it up. You just really rough it up, because what you're trying to do, you're trying to break up those fibers, but because you have it sewn down the middle, it should not fall apart. So I'm just going to brush this. Oh, there we go. Just brush it. Okay. And then you can see that I now have that chenille look as if it was on like a old vintage quilt or something like that. So that's the way it's supposed to be. And then once it dries, you'll have this nice chenille pattern. So let me do the other 2. It looks like I'm going to have to wet it just a little bit more. Move my sewing machine back just a little bit. And I'm just going to use this little bristle brush to just rough it up a bit. Let me see. Wet it. The fabric I don't mind getting so wet because that'll dry. And I can even take my heat tool. I guess I can do that on the paper. And you can use a, it would be nice if I had a toothbrush, but I didn't have an extra, toothbrush. I thought I had one in my craft bag, but I don't. That's probably something I should put in my craft bag. Okay, so there's the second roll. And then the third one, let me just wet it. And see if I can get these fibers to stand up. Okay, see. But you can see what it's supposed to do. Now, if you were to put this in the washing machine, it would just probably come out fabulous the way that it's supposed to look. But I'm trying to do this by hand. And I'm still getting the look that, you know, like I said, once it dries, I think it'll look better. So, okay, so here it is on fabric. And so you can see I now have, instead of just some trim, I have the chenille look. Now let's see if we can do the same thing on the card. So we'll let this one dry. Let's put this one here so this one can dry. We'll let that dry. Okay, so here's my little card. Now, if I had a spray bottle, I guess I could spray this, but I don't have a spray bottle. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure I do somewhere. This actually might be easier because it is paper. I'm just going to roll. Oh, yeah, this is actually easier than the fabric. Now, it is getting wet. My paper is getting wet. But if I had my heat tool on hand, I could just use my heat tool to dry it. So you can see how I now have, and this actually works really well. This actually works really, and actually it seems to be easier to do it on the paper than it is on that fabric. So it needs to dry, but as you can see, once it dries, and I wish I had my heat tool. I should have brought my heat tool. But once it dries, I'll have 3 rows of chenille on my paper. So that's kind of how you're supposed to use this. And if you look on the instructions, it tells you to wash your fabric after you sew it. But since I'm using this on my card, of course I can't put my card in the washing machine, but I can definitely use my heat tool and dry that. But that's how you use the Chenille-It, and it does give you a nice texture on your project. And if you're making a fabric project, this would be fantastic to use, but you can use it on your cards as well. So look at that. So I'm going to try to make this into some type of little card. I know I didn't quite get it straight, but that's okay. So we'll let that dry. And then again, here's my fabric. And it's still wet. But once it dries, it'll be nice and fluffy. And I'll probably go get my heat tool and dry it. So you can see how this will be nice and fluffy once you let it dry. So anyway, so that's it. That's my little tutorial on how to use the Chenille-It. And I hope you guys like that and try it, because it does give you a little something extra, something different that you can use on your projects. Okay, bye.